Alabama versus Michigan in the college football playoffs. Why and how can Alabama knock off the Wolverines? Jalen Milroe, the X Factor? JJ McCarthy, can he become QB3? We'll answer all these questions coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen every single day. And shout out for being our every single dayers, man. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and senior draft analyst. I got to kick this introduction over to my guy, Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. Can you talk to him, baby?
What's up, Locked On family? This is Keith Sanchez, man, the other side to this dynamic duo that we call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, man, where we talk everything college football. We talk everything NFL football. And like we like to say, man, it all starts with the NFL draft, man. We talk draft rosters, draft strategies, right? Draft management. How do you draft, right? And we break everything down, man, and we have a good time doing it in DP. Today's show, man, this is an Alabama versus Michigan. This is a pre-show, right? Like we're going through and we're talking about what's going to go down in these games, right? What offensive prospects we're talking about, which defensive prospects are we talking about, and then we're going to wrap this thing up with the X factors for the game. So, DP, before we get that started, man, why don't you hit them with our title sponsor?
This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Offensive prospects, Keith, and I want to start on the Alabama side of things, right? Mm-hmm. And Keith, I want to start in the trenches. J.C. Latham. And I think this is a big statement game for him in his 2024 NFL draft stock, because he's for a lot of people, he's kind of consensus. He's around that OT3, OT4 right now. And he's a predominant right tackle, right? We saw Darnell Wright go top 10 to the Chicago Bears in the 2023 NFL draft. Michigan's going to throw a lot of different edge rushers his way. And I think that's going to give him, like, you're going to see speed. You're going to see power. You're going to see dip and bend. You're going to see a lot of different things, right? When you think about dealing with Jalen Harrell, Jalen Harrell, Josiah Stewart, the transfer from Coastal Carolina, Braden McGregor. I think J.C. Latham has a shot to really solidify his place in the 2024 offensive tackle draft class. His strength, I think a misnomer, Keith, and you correct me if I'm wrong. People look at him and they see the big frame. They see the weight when you look him up on ESPN or on the school website. You know what I mean? And you say, man, he's 30, 40 pounds. And you're like, man, does he have the foot speed, right? Mm-hmm. I think his foot speed's fine. I think his foot speed is good enough to cut, guys off at the apex of their rush, right? 366, J.C. Latham from Alabama, 6'6", 360, right? I think his foot speed is good, Keith. You tell me if I'm wrong. I'll take it. But I feel like his foot speed is more than adequate to get out quickly and meet guys at the top of their rush.
Yeah, no, I think you can consider him. I would say he's athletic, right? Especially if he's listed at 360 pounds. I would say he's an athletic guy. I thought he had good feet, DP. I think you brought up the misnomer, right? Because he's heavy. I think the other thing he's going to have to show, he's going to have to dispel, right? And it's unfortunate, and I think it's irresponsible at times just to kind of project one player's situation onto another player. But with Evan Neal and Evan Neal's struggle, right? Everybody's going to say, everybody's going to do the simple thing, right? And say, oh, another Alabama offensive tackle, Evan Neal struggles, so this guy's going to struggle too. And I think that's irresponsible and it's not fair to him, right? When you look at him as a prospect. So I'm definitely going to be checking out J.C. Latham to see how it goes. But DP, another guy, you talk about offensive weapons for Alabama, right? The guy I'm checking for is Jermaine Burton. He'll be at the Senior Bowl, right? Former 5-star young man. He played at Georgia, transferred, right? It was not a good year last year, right? He didn't have a good year last year. this year, in a weird way, right? It wasn't Bryce Young, but Jalen Milroe. He's a little bit more consistent. Maybe the pressure was off, right? I have no idea why this year he produced on a higher level, right? But I'm looking for Jermaine Burton, DP, and I'm looking for certain aspects, right? I'm just looking for him ability to get open, be the number one wide receiver, make plays, right? Because this is a guy I believe that I think his athleticism, I think he's a plus athlete. I don't know if he's a high level athlete, right? I don't know if he's a 4.3, low 4.4 type of guy, right? But if he can run a 4.5, right, and then show that he has inside outside versatility, run good routes, and make key plays, can he position himself right to be at the top of the fourth round, third round conversation, right? And now you're talking about being a top 100 pick and then coming out of nowhere. Because DP, when is the last time and outside of Jermaine Burton, right? I'm gonna challenge people with some more Alabama wide receivers, right? Alabama weapons, period, right? And when is the last time we've had to ask that conversation, right? We're talking about they've had wide receivers that went top 5, top 10, top 5, top 10, win the Heisman, right? Like consistent production from the wide receiver level. So I'm definitely looking at Jermaine Burton to be that guy that carried his wide receiver.
No, 100%. I like that call out, Keith, especially. And what I love about Jermaine Burton is we see the speed, the athleticism, but for a receiver that is listed at 6 foot even, 195 pounds, he attacks the ball at the highest point. I love his body control, his spatial awareness and field awareness. Where if he's on the sideline, he kind of has some proness already, some pro qualities to his game in terms of you see him on the sideline and that Nate Burleson, the toe drag swag, he get in college is only 1 foot. He'll get 2 feet down like a pro NFL wide receiver. So I appreciate that when it comes down to him, Keith. But also, I think the run game is going to be big for Bama, right? And I think it's both guys. Both of them, I think, are listed as senior. Jace at the running back position. Jason McClellan listed at 5'11", like 212, 215 pounds. A guy that I think has good footwork. He can run hard. He was kind of the downhill threat last year compared to paired with Jahmyr Gibbs, who was just a do-it-all, just kind of chess piece for their offense. He was the guy that they ran him into the short yardage situation, stuff like that. But he shows for NFL teams and NFL fans that are looking to upgrade their add more pieces to their run game. I think he's a guy that you definitely got to keep an eye on. I think he's scheme versatile. He can run zone, but he also run between the tackles as well. Like I said, I see footwork, I see patience, I do see vision, and he had a much better season this year. And then, of course, the senior running back, Roydell Williams, listed at 5'11", 214 pounds. That's another NFL build in terms of the body type. And I think this young man also, quick feet, he can get downhill and run physical, but he does show open field speed as well. I think both of these guys, right, both of these guys will be very paramount in terms of helping this offense stay ahead of the chains, but also stay where they need to be. But Keith, real quick, not even real quick, because we still got time. We still got time. Keith, Michigan, and we both have watched like Cornelius Johnson. I'm gonna tell you the two guys that I am sticking with, and that's granted one of them he's not a draftable prospect. I don't think he's draftable yet. Colston Loveland, the tight end, and then AJ Barner, the other tight end. AJ Barner is draft eligible. He's a senior. He's not going back. This offense, passing game wise, is ran more so through the tight ends, Keith. Like Roman Wilson, as we all know, we watch him. He's been kind of wide receiver one. He's their big play guy. But it's the tight ends that Bama has to look out for in this game to try and make J.J. McCarthy uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I like that call out. I like you mentioning Roman Wilson, right? Because he has the opportunity to just make some big plays, right? And let's see what happens. But I'm gonna just go back to the running back position and the obvious answer, right? I'm gonna go with not J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, DP. I'm gonna go with Blake Corum. Like I think this is a proven game for him. As much as he's already proven being one of the best players to come through Michigan, right? Most productive running backs to ever come through Michigan. I think it's still a proven game for him because of the height concerns, right? And then now you're playing the SEC, right? And then that's going to be that conversation. And listen, go get you 100 yards, right? Go get you 100 plus yards, run through somebody's face, right? Show that you're physical. I can do this to any team y'all line up against me and make some things happen. So I'm going to look at Blake Corum also as a guy because I like him just as a football player, right? I don't know if there's going to be any elite testing or any elite measurements, right, going on, but I like him just as a football player, and I want him to go out there and just play football. So that I think that wraps up the offensive prospects for Alabama. For Michigan, what we're doing coming up next, man, we're going to talk about these defensive prospects, right? There are a lot of defensive guys, especially Michigan side of the football. Alabama has a lot of names that people don't know about, but, man, they're really going to show well in this game, and then also as we go through this draft process. So let's get into these defensive prospects coming up next.
Today's episode of Locked On NFL Draft has been brought to you by PrizePicks. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. With basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at a 10.5-point combo of 3-pointers made plus receptions. Do you want to play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and or comedian Andrew Schultz? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each and every week. This Sunday on PrizePicks, I'm taking Geno Smith versus the Pittsburgh Steelers for more than or over 230.5 passing yards. So, guys, what you need to do is very simple. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. We started with Bama for offense, Keith, but let's flip to Michigan for defense. And we talked about the run game being pivotal for Bama, right? Jalen Milroe is a big part of that. I'm looking at the interior defensive line. Chris Jenkins, NFL bloodlines. His father played in the league. He's a senior, right, from Michigan. A guy that is listed at 6'3", 305 pounds. He's a very difficult body to move at the point of attack. He's strong. He knows how to use his arm length and his wingspan. He will stack guys, hold up at the point of attack, and then displace offensive linemen and shed them and flash his colors to the running back, right? So he knows how to kind of be a stopgap guy, a guy that can plug multiple gaps. He can play two. He can two gap. He can single gap. He can do a lot of different things. And then he can also give you some pass rush where he can kind of flatten and collapse that pocket in the middle right into the face of the quarterback. And Jalen Milroe, being a guy that is a powerful, explosive, dynamic runner, like I think that's going to be big on those third downs, because when you have a guy like Chris Jenkins that can collapse the pocket, enough to where when Jalen Milroe thinks he sees that interior lane opening, you have a guy that knows how to quickly, he locates the ball carrier, but he can quickly shed and get to that gap before, Jalen Milroe is able, him or the running backs are able to hit it. So I think that he's going to be one of the most important pieces, Keith. But Jalen Harrell, the edge rusher, I think he's probably the most athletic and most agile in terms of being able to dip and bend. I think he's got good arm length. It appears to be like that on tape. And I'm looking for that matchup when he sees J.C. Latham, right? Because he'll flip sides and everything. But when he sees Latham, because that's the type of guy that people are going to be worried about a little bit when it comes down to Latham. Can he get out, right? Can Jalen Harrell stress him with that first step quickness, his explosiveness? Can he stress him and pull him out there to be able to open up the inside counters, man?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at and talking about the linebacker position, right? Another hybrid guy on that Michigan front, and that's linebacker Junior Colson for Michigan, right? I'm going to be looking at him because this is a guy that plays inside linebacker, plays middle linebacker, but he's also a guy that they put on the edge. But when you look at it, DP, from the perspective of you've seen multiple teams, right? And especially the last game, the last two games we played, Georgia and Auburn, that Alabama played, right? People keep a spy, right? And I wonder if he's going to be that spy candidate for this Michigan defense, right? Because he is an athletic guy. He has really good length. I know at one point he was playing with a club on his hand, right? I think he broke his wrist.
He might still be with that club, but
yeah, and I wonder how that. Yeah, and I wonder how that's going to affect them, right? Because you're going to want to have it all when you're trying to tackle Jalen Milroe, especially in the open field. So that's what I'm looking for. Michigan defense. And obviously, they still have safety Rod Moore, right, who can walk down in the box, play a little bit of nickel, play the high safety, wants to come down and tackle. But DP, when you get to this Alabama side, I talked about it.
Hold on real quick, Keith.
Okay,
I got this is you can call him a X factor, but Mike Senstrell, the receiver converted to corner who plays nickel. He's going to be big for them. Like, he's going to be big for Bama because you're going to see number 17 in the slot. Not Jalen Waddle. He's in Miami. You know what I mean? But Isaiah Bond, who has really created a strong bond, no pun intended, with Jalen Milroe in the passing game. So Mike is going to have his hands full because if you can't So like if you put Will Johnson, who's not eligible yet, guys, but stud, you know what I mean, stud corner, you put Will Johnson on Jermaine Burton, right? But if you do that, but you don't have, if you can't contain Isaiah Bond, this Bama passing game is still going to be able to flow. So I wanted to highlight this young man because he plays off, he plays man, kind of tight man. He's got good footwork and he knows how to play receiver, and he uses that to his advantage.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And it's like you said, you pair him, Rod Moore, Will Johnson. That's a good defensive back group, right? And that's something that in the past Michigan has had like one guy, right, that stood out, but to have 3-4 guys along that defensive backfield should show well for those guys. But DP, let's transition to the Alabama side, right? When we talking about defensive prospects, man, and I'm gonna start with the corners, DP. I'm gonna start exactly where we left off with Michigan. I'm gonna talk about the defensive backs and Kool-Aid McKinstry, right? But I want to highlight one guy who's probably been one of the biggest risers from the summer to now, and that is cornerback Terrion Arnold, man. A guy that came into Bama high school. He was a 5-star safety, right? Made the transition last year to corner, and it was just details, right? Just technique things that needed to be improved on, but you kind of seen the athleticism, and he had the athletic ability to do it, right? He's got it done, right? He's worked in the offseason, gotten everything done. And while I say this, I've watched plenty of Alabama games this year, right? Both live and on tape. And I think he's playing just as well as Kool-Aid McKinstry. So what that means for his draft stock, right? Like you can elevate him, and then the potential to have 2 lockdown corners or 2 guys that you can play press man defense with, right? I think it'll be very interesting. So I wanted to highlight Terrion Arnold, the other corner, right? The corner that nobody really talks about a lot, but I think he's going to drum up a lot of conversation once we get into the draft process.
No, 100%, Keith, and I love that. I think, another part of that secondary that's going to be big for me. He's kind of one of my risers, just kind of watching tape, and especially that the SEC championship games where he really kind of popped to me was their corner / safety Trey Amos.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know what I mean? Physical dude. He's listed at 6'1", around 197, 200 pounds. And I think when you look at the Michigan offense and how it runs through those tight ends, you need somebody with long arms that's willing to be physical, be aggressive at the line of scrimmage to kind of try and deter some of the quick stuff in the passing game. He can do, and not only that, but he can also match up with Cornelius Johnson. He's got the size, the physicality, and I think the functional play strength for that as well. Because I go into the trenches, and I think about, when you look at the run defense, you talked about it with Blake Corum and everything. You look at, I think it's Tim Smith, who's a senior, 6'4", 302. Justin, I cannot pronounce his last name.
Igboigbe. Yeah, we're gonna roll with that.
Yeah, let's roll with that. You know what I mean? I believe he's heading down to the Senior Bowl, right? Yeah, so 6'5", 295. These guys are going to be so pivotal to hold up at the point of attack against this offensive line that can be physical, that can move bodies off the line of scrimmage. You got to hold up in this game. And Keith, because if those guys hold up, right, and they force J.J. McCarthy in the 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s, even some 3rd and 6s, Keith, where, you know what I'm saying? You have to pass it. You know where I'm going next. That you unleash the dogs then. You let Dallas Turner, right, the edge rusher Dallas Turner, you let Chris Braswell, you let those guys, right, off the chain. You let those dogs off their leash and you let them go quarterback hunting. Dallas Turner at 6'4", 242, explosive, dynamic edge rusher, and one of those guys that's probably going to be a 1st-round pick. And then Chris Braswell is a much bigger guy, 6'3", 255. He's also got a nice first step as well, but he's a little bit more power than what Dallas Turner is going to bring. So I think that's going to be big. If that defensive line can hold up at the point of attack, Keith, and allow to be able to put them in good situations, I think that's going to be big. And then also Malachi Moore, man, who plays the star position, that nickel. That's the guy teams try to pick on, Keith. They try to stay away from Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry, and for good reason. But Malachi is going to be pivotal because if they start moving Roman Wilson into the slot, right, or Cornelius Johnson, like I expect them to try and isolate him and try and take some deep shots.
Yep, not similar to what LSU did, right? Try to target him, especially like you're talking about, like putting wide receivers in the slot. He'll be in the middle of the field and trying to, I guess, project some matchups, right, and be able to move the ball down the field and take explosive plays. But DP, let's keep it going, right, man? We on to what is simple, man. Who's gonna win the game, right? We talked about the NFL draft prospects, both offensively and defensively. Now it's time to talk about who's the X factors and simply who's going to win the game. So stay tuned because here comes our game picks.
When you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. Guys, LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Okay, LinkedIn is not just another job board, all right? LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. All right. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, and they might not have the time or the resources to hire with just their own. So, guys, understand this, and it's very simple. Listen, thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. X factors, Keith. And we can give one for both teams. For me, Alabama's X factor is Isaiah Bond. Talked about him earlier. The sophomore wide receiver who plays a lot in the slot. And I keep saying every time I see 17 catching the football, it brings me back to those memories of Jalen Waddle in that crimson jersey, man. And I think Isaiah Bond, we saw the way how he kind of finished the season, nice, strong finish to the season. Michigan's going to have to limit him because typically the slot receiver, you got the over routes, the change of direction routes, whip routes, quick slants, mesh concepts, stuff like that. This young man tracks the ball well. He's got good hands, and he's just shown toughness this year. All right, you know what I mean? And I think with this offense is battle tested after everything they went through, changing quarterbacks and all that. Jalen Milroe is going to look Isaiah Bond's way quite a bit if he sees a matchup he likes. Like I said, Mike Senstrell will see him more than likely in that nickel spot in the slot one-on-one. My offensive X factor for Bama is going to be Isaiah Bond. But my X factor from Michigan, Keith, and it's like, man, like, you know, it's a lot of different pieces, a lot of different guys I can pull from. I'm going to pick a unit. It's the offensive line, Keith. Ladarius Henderson, Trevor Keegan, I think Drake Nugent, Trent Jones, Carson Barnhart, because I think I forget the right guard's name, but he got hurt against Ohio State. Not
Zach Zenner, right? No,
yeah, I think it was Zach Zenner. I think Zach went down and everything. But this offensive line, that's the X factor for Michigan, because if you can't run the ball and you put yourself in those not so favorable passing situations where you got to worry about Chris Braswell and Dallas Turner or Malachi Moore off the edge, or if they blitz, Caleb Downs, or they start trying to send pressure and heating up. You think Nick Saban didn't watch the tape from that TCU game? You know what I mean? I know it was a year ago, but if you don't think that Nick Saban didn't watch that game to see how did they rattle J.J. McCarthy early to get the pick six, to get, turnovers and bad throws. If you know what I'm saying, Nick Saban watched that. Their defensive team watched that, and they're going to look at it, especially Dallas Turner, they watched Chop Robinson, basically make them say, you know what, we're not throwing it for the whole second half. We're going to run every single play to close this game out. So that offensive line is going to be pivotal. You got to protect, you got to get the run game going, right? Stay in favor of down the distances, but you have to protect J.J. McCarthy. He can protect himself with his legs because he's athletic. But Keith, if this offensive line starts leaking like a dam about to break and let the flood through, this game could get ugly.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with, my game picks. I mean, not my game picks. I'm sorry, my X factors are gonna be fairly simple. I'm picking the quarterbacks on both sides. Reason why, in what I'm saying is that JJ McCarthy, right? You just talked about this Alabama defensive line. They're not getting through this game talking about Michigan without having to pass the football, right? I don't think this is a Penn State situation because Alabama's offense can get to 20 points, right? Penn State offense was capped at 12, 13 points. They wasn't getting the 20, 25 points. Alabama's offense can get to that. So you're going to have to keep up the pace. This won't be a run the ball 40, 50 times. You're going to have to move the ball down the field, and J.J. McCarthy is going to have to play a key piece in that. Now, you talk about Jalen Milroe, right? I expect the same thing, right? That I don't know if you're going to establish the run like that. And Jason McClellan, listen, good running back, right? But will he have the ability for explosive plays through the run game? I'm not sure about that, DP. I don't know if I see that through his skill set, right? So I picked Jalen Milroe because I think we've seen him in opportunities. You're talking about the Texas game, right? Which they lost, but then finishing out the Auburn game and trying to see where the maturation process for his game and high-level moments, right? Being able to slow things down, because I think this game will be like a heavyweight fight, right? And not a Mike Tyson heavyweight fight where they just come in and knock each other out in 30 seconds, right? I think it's a heavyweight fight in the sense of the fact of that first half is going to be tightly contested, right? So they're going to kind of be going back and forth, trying to fill each other out, right? Throwing jabs, throwing a couple hooks here, figure out what's going on. And then I think in the second half, right? Second half adjustments and moving into the second half, I think that's when you're going to try to see, I think both teams are going to decide to put the ball in their quarterback hands, and it's going to come down to who's simply going to make a play. But DP, I set it up, right? I set it up. It's going to come down to who makes a play. Now we're talking about game picks, DP, and I'm going to go ahead and pick, I think Alabama. You know what, DP? Yeah, I think Alabama is going to, because I almost went to Michigan, right? And matter of fact, I'm going against. Am I going against my national championship pick? I am, DP. I am, because I picked Michigan to win it all. But I don't know if I love this matchup for Michigan, and if you're Michigan, you're probably feeling like this is not fair, right? But I'm gonna go with Bama to win this game, DP. I'm gonna go to them to win this game. I think it's probably going to be a 27-20 type of game.
Keith, I'm going to I'm pretty sure. Did I pick Michigan as well? I think I might have picked Michigan as well. We both did.
Michigan to win the national championship.
You said it's going to be a heavyweight fight, and I agree. It's going to be like you said, and I love how you broke it down. Like they're going to do a lot of jabs and just trying to feel it out. The first 6 rounds of this 12-round fight, it's going to be a lot of the casual fan to be like, I don't know if I like this game. Mm-hmm. Second half, then you can start seeing them haymakers thrown. Like, you know what? I got to get points, baby. And it's going to be haymaker, body blow, hook shot. Like it's going to be a lot of heavy punches thrown from both teams. I'm going to go against my preseason pick as well. I'm going against Bama. I'm taking Bama. I think Bama is just not the physicality, the style of play on both sides of the ball. It's just not a great match. It's not the advantageous matchup that Michigan has had all season. Yep. You know what I mean? Like you talked about with Bama being able to score 20 to 25 points. Michigan
because I brought up the Penn State example, right? But even Ohio State with Kyle McCord, right? You knew that thing was capped, right? And I think Jalen Milroe,
with all the weapons, you knew it was capped.
Yeah. Jalen Milroe is going to provide a different element at the quarterback position that they haven't seen. So I'm going to expect them to be able to score more points.
100%. I think Michigan they don't open the passing game enough to trust it when you have to. You know what I mean? I always talk about it like, yeah, it's cool to shoot threes in the NBA. It's cool to shoot threes in basketball, Keith. But when I hit that 2-3 zone and force you to shoot threes, now you're shooting out of rhythm. It ain't no dribble, drive, penetration, kick out to Steph Curry or kick out to Klay Thompson. It's we can't get to the paint, so we got to shoot the three. And you're not shooting it in rhythm. And I think that's how I view it with this situation with Michigan. They want to run the ball. They will throw off the play action, different things like that. But when you force them to throw, when you force J.J. McCarthy to drop back, he just does not have enough substantiated reps, right? Enough good reps to where you just feel like, man, against this secondary, no, I don't like it at all, Keith. I'm going Bama. I think it's kind of I'm going 30. I think it'll make it. I think it's a close game. I say 30-24. I say 30-24. They win by a touchdown.
Yeah, and look, and I'll be more than happy, DP, if they let JJ McCarthy throw the ball 30, 35 times, right?
As
Because it'll give us,
evaluators, I want it. Keith,
that's
go
what I was
throw
about
it
to say. It'll
45.
give us
I need to see it.
opportunity as evaluators to figure this thing out, right? Is he quarterback 8 or is he quarterback 3, right? And allow us to figure this thing out. But DP, man, I'll tell you what we figured out, man, that it is draft season and we are rolling right now, man. I want to say shout out to our everydayers, man. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. If you haven't hit the like button, go hit the like button, man. If you haven't commented, go ahead and drop a comment. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, man. That thing is taking off. It is draft season. Everybody's liking, everybody's commenting, everybody's talking in the videos. So make sure you hop in there too and give your draft takes. But man, I am Keith Sanchez, man. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That is my co-host right there, Mr. DP, Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we always like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every single day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Listen, guys, we have Texas versus Washington college football playoff preview and prospects on the offensive, defensive, and the X factors and game picks on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.